Aloha, y'all. Welcome to the Socially Awkward Chef. Today we are going to be making Hawaii style corned beef and cabbage. This dish is pretty popular here in the islands and it only needs a few ingredients. And it's going to also come together in no time flat. So let's get started with some chopping and then we'll get to cooking. So I'm going to go ahead and just set that corned beef off to the side. I'm going to start with cabbage. If you have, I would use, oh no, here we go, I'm choking. I've got a cabbage here that I'm just going to cut up into fairly sizable chunks. And this guy is probably like a medium-sized cabbage, so depending on what you've got going on, you could use half of a large cabbage or just a whole medium one. Next up, I've got one medium onion that I'm just going to take off the top and the bottom. I'm just going to cut this in half. Set these off to the side. And then I'm also just going to take out that first outer layer here because they're usually pretty papery and not fun to eat. All right, so these we're going to cut, we're going to slice these about 1/8 of an inch thick. And just set these into a separate bowl from our cabbage. Last but not least, we've got the star of the show, our corned beef. And this actually was introduced to the Pacific during World War II. And people really enjoyed it because it had a really long shelf life. It was inexpensive, and you knew you could make a meal out of it as long as you had it in your pantry. And it has remained ever popular. So we've got this little key, and you just have to make sure that you can unwind this without breaking it. So let's see how we do. Ooh, all right. Okay, so I'm going to get all these guys over to the stove. So we're going to start cooking. I've got a I've got a pot heating up on medium heat. So I will see you in just a sec. All right, so I've got my pot on medium heat. So I'm going to put in this entire can of corned beef, if it will come out. I'm going to break up the corned beef a little bit, and then I'm going to add in my onions. And if you noticed, I did not add any oil to this pot because the corned beef has a lot of fat in it, as well as salt. So you're not going to see me adding any salt into this as well. So you can see I've got the corned beef in a nice even layer. I'm just going to toss in my sliced onions. Just going to give it a sec, and then I'm going to mix them together. I just want to get some of that oil rendered out. I'm also scraping the bottom periodically because I don't want the corned beef to stick to the bottom and start to burn. It's also good because you get little nice toasty brown bits. I've been giving these a good stir about every minute or minute and a half or so. And I'm looking for the onions to become more translucent, and I would say that in total we'll be cooking this for about 8 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 8 minutes, and I've let these onions cook down quite a bit. So they're going to release some of their sugars, so they'll get a little bit sweet. So next up, I'm going to add in some freshly ground black pepper. You can add as much as you want or as little as you want. That's about a half a teaspoon. And then to this, I'm going to add in our cabbage. I'm going to give this a stir. I also have some water on the side, as if this starts to get a little bit dry. I want to give the opportunity to let this cabbage get a little bit of color on it And then we also want it to steam a little bit. I'm giving the cabbage a really good mix so everybody gets to touch the bottom of my stock pot here. And I'm going to let them hang out for a little bit and then see how it goes. This is looking pretty good, so I'm just going to add in just a couple of tablespoons of water. I'm going to go ahead and cover this and let it steam for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then we'll check and see how it looks. This looks exactly where I'd like it to be. The cabbage is really nicely cooked. It'll still have a little bit of bite to it. I am ready to plate up, so I've got some steamed rice here. And then I'm just going to load it up with my corned beef and cabbage. That looks good. And that is it. Your 3-ingredient meal on a dime, easy Hawaiian style corned beef and cabbage. Until we eat again, y'all, aloha.